Today I'm in the garden picking jalapeno peppers. As you can see, I've already picked a lot, yet my plants are just loaded with these spicy peppers. I've got tons of them. It's been very, very dry this year. We've hardly had any rain in July and August, yet my jalapenos are producing like crazy. I've even got one there that's red and another one turning red from being on the vine so long. So today I'm going to pick a bunch of these and show you what you can do with jalapeno peppers from your garden. Jalapenos are one of the easiest things to harvest. All I have to do is pick them off the plants and simply give them a little wash. I just rinse them under water and put them into a colander to dry. It's time to cook jalapeno poppers with Susan Beck. We were just out in the garden and we picked all of these jalapenos. I have tons of them, so I'll share a few different ways that I use jalapenos. Our most favorite way is to make poppers, filling these with cream cheese, wrapping them with bacon, and baking them until the pepper's nice and soft. That's another video. Today I'm going to show a shortcut for that, and I am going to make jalapeno popper dip. I am going to make this dip today with 1 bar of cream cheese. This is a nice amount. It'll make about 2 cups of dip, and it'll serve my family of 4 with probably a few leftovers for my lunch. Into this will also go some cheddar cheese, 1/2 cup, 1/4 cup mozzarella cheese, and a bit of Miracle Whip and onions. Now, a nice ingredient with our jalapenos. Bacon is always a great ingredient. So those are the only things that are going to go into our jalapeno popper dip. This is a real simple way to make the jalapeno popper taste without the work of making the poppers. So to get started, I need to brown my bacon. I will want my bacon cooked fairly crispy because it's for a dip, where sometimes when you're making it to go with your eggs, you might go a little less done. Another little trick, if you want to do it in strips, that's fine. It's just hard to cut it into little pieces until it has cooled well. Another way to go about this is just using my kitchen shears, and I am cutting my bacon into small pieces to start with here. Once the shears get a little greasy, it doesn't cut quite as well as it does at the start, but it does do the job. So I am going to cut up, I have 4 pieces of bacon. 3 to 4 pieces is sufficient. It's a good way to use up the end of the bacon too if you have a few strips left from making breakfast. This would be another use for this. All right, these pieces, I'll finish cutting them up. We'll go into my skillet and onto the stove to become crispy pieces of bacon. I have the bacon on medium heat on one of my oven burners, and every so often I'm just going to give it a little stir just so that all the sides become nice and crispy. While the bacon cooks, let's talk a little bit about these peppers. So this is your typical jalapeno pepper. You can buy these in a grocery store for very little money. They don't weigh much, that's part of it. You can also leave them on your vine a long time and they turn red. Sometimes they start to get a little bit of dark, like blackish purple on them. That's okay, there's nothing wrong with those. I just want to show you the difference in the taste here. I'm going to cut off a little sliver of the red and a little sliver of the green. Now when I take a bite of that green jalapeno, there's some spice to that. It's not impossible to eat it. I'm not going, oh, my mouth is on fire. Jalapeno's not real hot. Most of its heat comes from the seeds and the ribs inside. So how much of the seeds and ribs you use make a difference. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now here's a little piece of that red jalapeno. And I could eat these just like a red pepper. These are unbelievably sweet as they turn red. So you might be able to put them to use a little more. Now on that last bite, I'm getting a little kick. I hit a rib. Woo! Now I've got the heat. So even in the red ones, the ribs and the seeds are quite hot. Let's check that bacon. 4 strips of bacon are looking quite crispy. You can hear that I have my oven fan running. with bacon, that's a good idea to get a lot of smoke sometimes. I did not put any grease in the pan to start with because bacon, as you know, has a lot of fat in it. There's plenty of grease down in there, and I don't really want all that grease in my popper dip. So I am going to move this out of the pan and put it onto paper towel that will absorb that. I've got a paper plate with some paper towels to absorb the grease. To be honest here, when I took the bite of the red pepper and got some of the ribs by accident, my mouth was really on fire, even with the red jalapeno, which tells me these green ones are even hotter. Now, if you taste it and you go, oh my, that's really hot, milk is a great way to cut through that heat. I had a saltine cracker and a little glass of milk in order to continue on with this video. That's another reason we're pairing cheeses like cream cheese and cheddar and mozzarella today go well with jalapenos because they cut some of that spice. All right, so that tells me that my peppers are probably quite hot. So I am going to cut the tops off of them. Those little curly stems there that were attached to the plants are going to be removed. You can use 2 or 3 jalapeno peppers, although you could really make it however you'd like to do it. If you like it really hot, go ahead and keep that. Number it 3 or increase it to 4 and keep all the ribs and the seeds. I, on the other hand, am going to remove almost all of the ribs and seeds. I like to do that with a melon baller that you might use with your cantaloupe or watermelon if you're trying to make a pretty salad that has all the melon pieces in nice little circles. So let's cut through this one here and this one here as well. And we're just going to remove all the seeds and ribs for the most part. Like on some of these, I'm leaving like 1 rib slightly in there and there's a couple seeds. I do like to have a little heat to it, and you know, when I ate it without any ribs or seeds, that little bite did not give me that heat at all. And if I don't keep some of it, I feel like then my cheeses just take over and you don't even know that you made a jalapeno popper dip. All right, let me do a little cleanup here with my seeds and ribs, and then we'll move on to cutting these. Okay, I've chopped up 2 of the jalapenos into some pretty small little pieces. I would really recommend tiny pieces when working with jalapenos. The way I went about that is I just cut this jalapeno half into some long strips, and then I went back the other direction and cut them into some tiny little squares of jalapeno. So let's just do that with this last one here. You know, another thing, if you were to make this and you tasted your dip when you were done and went, oh my goodness, that's too spicy for me or my family to eat, well, all you really need to do is add more cream cheese and mayo and just up the other ingredients until you got it to a taste that you felt was the right amount of spice for you. So there are our diced jalapenos. Next we're going to look into some onion. This recipe can be done with green onions, and you can keep some of the green tops with that as well as the little onion bulb at the bottom. I got these little shallots from my garden. I'm going to chop up 2 of these today. And I have also made this when it's in the winter time with just some seasoning. This is chopped onion right out of my spice cupboard. So let's cut the ends off of these shallots here. So I'm cutting up my onion here. You know, I mentioned that you could use some chopped onion from your spice cupboard for this, and that I have done that successfully. The other thing is you don't have to have fresh jalapenos to do this either. You can buy those jarred jalapenos that maybe you use on your nachos or in some of your Mexican cooking as well. So it would be perfectly fine to buy those canned jalapenos. We have our peppers and our onions chopped up nice and small. And I am going to make this today in a crock pot container, although you could put this in a glass bowl or some kind of casserole crock and put it into your oven at 350 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes and let it heat through. You need a fairly lengthy time, like the 20 to 30 minutes, because you really want the jalapenos and the onions to cook down. You shouldn't be tasting those raw. So let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to just mix in this bowl before I move it into my crock pot bowl. So there is my cream cheese that's been sitting out for a little while, so you can see it's going to stir fairly well. And in goes my 4 strips of bacon that was cooked crispy, my 3 jalapeños that were de-seeded and de-veined. Those ribs are gone, those seeds are gone. In go my shallots. Got a couple pieces here that I think are a little on the big side. I'm gonna run my knife through those quick. Okay. And then I have a 1/4 cup of mozzarella and a 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese. And my final ingredient is 1/2 cup mayonnaise or Miracle Whip. In my family, we like Miracle Whip, so that's what I'm using today. But either one is fine. There's not a whole lot of difference. All right, this little tool is my nifty measuring cup that is just awesome for sticky things like mayo and sour cream and peanut butter and honey. So I've mentioned that many times before, and out that pops. All right, let's make a little room so I can stir better. I am just going to incorporate everything into that cream cheese. So sometimes mashing it with the back of my spoon against the side of the bowl is a good way to kind of push it all together. All right, it's nice and colorful with that yellow cheese and those green peppers and the brown pieces of crispy bacon. Now this is just 1 brick of cream cheese, as I mentioned. So if you wanted to take this, say, to a party, just simply double your recipe and make enough for all the guests. Doesn't that look yummy already? Okay, I'm simply going to stick it into my crock pot base. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Set my crock pot on high to start with until I get it where it's all melted and I feel like the jalapenos don't have a crunch to them anymore. So then I can turn it down to the warm setting and leave it sit while everyone's eating it or until everyone is ready to eat it. So it's as simple as that. Just chop a few vegetables, put everything together, heat it up in the oven or your crock pot. We'll have a look at that once it's a little softer. Let's give this jalapeno dip a try. I've got celery, I've got some tortilla strips, and some Ritz crackers. Vegetables, crackers, chips, whatever you like. Little pita chips maybe. It's really good. All the jalapenos and the onions are no longer crunchy, so it's ready to be eaten. It's barely got any spice to it at all, but just enough to give it a good flavor. Dips are one of my favorite appetizers, and I think you might enjoy this jalapeno popper dip as well, especially if you have a lot of jalapenos in your garden.